Whoa! What's up, diggity dogs? I just made a mess in the other room. High five!
You are watching Fugitive Red Eye, and welcome to another episode of Tales from the Drive-Thru. Today we got another episode of Corbin Tales. This is a specific story, and I'm gonna warn you, this one's gonna be really fucked up and graphic.
Yep. This is the perks of living in Ohio.
Insert unfunny Ohio meme here.
I'm almost nervous to say it, but so I was working we were setting up a fence, and this guy, he came up the hill, went to the top of the hill to go work on something, which I didn't know at the time, but was actually, he was going up to work on something that I was supposed to do that I didn't do. And so it's kind of my fault that this happened, but he wasn't supposed to be near the machine anyway, so to be fair, there literally is no reason he should have been close to this machine. It was not what he was working on, and it was on. It shouldn't have been on either, but we heard this sound after he went up to the top of the hill. That sounded like a hammer hitting on metal, and that's what we thought it was. We thought it was somebody working on something up there, and we just ignored it. We just thought it was, normal, and we left. We literally just left while that noise was going on in the background. Drove off, and so we heard a sound that sounded like somebody was hitting metal with a hammer, and we ignored it, thinking it was just somebody working on the top of the hill. And we thought we heard, I think we actually did hear somebody yell, but I don't think we really associated it with anything. It was sounded far away, and I think we ignored it. But there was that, but I definitely know we heard that metal banging sound, and we just thought it was somebody working up there. We drove off, literally just left, and not that long on the way driving home, not that long after, we saw 2 ambulances go to where we were working, and freaking the sheriff went up there, and we didn't know what happened. We heard that there was a 4-wheeler accident, and so, that has nothing to do with us, 4-wheeler accident. So we didn't really think much of it, and then the next day I went back to work. They were explaining to me that the kid, who's not much older than me, that went up on that hill to work on something that I was supposed to work on, but I didn't, and so he went up there to do what I was supposed to do, and he had to wait for our boss to show up. And while he was waiting there, I guess he backed into this machine that was on, and his leg got stuck. The pant leg got stuck onto the machine, and it pulled his pant leg and wrapped it around this metal pole, and then his leg got caught in it, and it twisted and broke his leg multiple times. It broke multiple parts of his leg, twisted it, wrapped it around it like a slinky, and then pulled him even more into it and wrapped his whole body around it like a slinky, like his body wrapped around it. And there was a metal pole underneath that metal pole, so when it was twisting him around, his head was hitting that bottom metal pole over and over and over again, and that's what that noise we heard was. That's what sounded like metal banging, was his head hitting that metal pole over and over, his body twisted in that machine. And I went to look where it happened, and all of his clothes were ripped up and wrapped around that machine. So he was trapped in there. Nobody helped him out of it. There was nobody there to turn the machine off. The machine was actually on for hours after he got off of it. And what he had to do was he had to cut his own clothes off to survive. He literally cut off everything, even his own underwear. And you could see that his underwear was wrapped around it and covered in blood. His underwear was covered in blood. He had parts of his genitals ripped off and leg. And That should have never happened, because that metal pole should have been covered by like the cylinder thing that covers it to keep things like that from happening. And it looked like a metal album cover with the clothes wrapped around it like that. Literally all of his clothes wrapped around it, even his boots ripped apart. Everything was ripped apart. Literally everything got stuck into the machine and was ripped apart. And I couldn't believe that somebody survived like that. How do you get your entire body wrapped around like something like that and live? It's nuts to me. But after he cut himself out, he was completely naked, missing a leg, bleeding all over the place. Gets onto a four-wheeler, he crawled to the four-wheeler for like an hour. He crawled on the ground, and you could see through all the way across the driveway where he was bleeding, because his four-wheeler was at the end of the friggin' driveway, and he crawled all the way there, got on the four-wheeler with his left foot on the right side of the four-wheeler so he could push the gas, and he went to like the nearest place. They called the police, and they came and saved him. And but that's crazy to think. I could never do something like that, and it being partially my fault is kind of is scary to think about. But it seemed, but it was. I just think it's crazy though, because we heard him. We heard that sound, and it's like imagine hearing a crazy sound and then finding out it's literally somebody freaking almost dying, being ripped apart.
Right.
And I don't know, it's just crazy. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. It literally looked like a metal album cover, the way the clothes were in the machine and blood was on the ground. It looked crazy.
Right, and like we said before when we were talking before we recorded, it sounds like some shit out of a Saw movie, the way he escaped.
Yeah. I mean, like, he had to pull his leg off. I mean, he had his leg dangling off of him by a piece of skin while he was on the four-wheeler. So imagine somebody's naked, completely naked, like a shorter, fat, muscular kind of guy, completely naked on a four-wheeler with one leg, shows up to your house. It's freaking crazy. Also, the guy who had to wrap a shirt around his leg to stop the blood said that the guy grabbed the shirt and tightened it himself because he thought it wasn't tight enough, and the guy was like saving himself the whole time. The guy literally saved his own life with sheer willpower, and which I could never do. If it happened to me, I would be a human slinky way worse than him. I'd just be guts and skin and bone wrapped around a metal pole. I'd be like skin wrapped around a metal pole. It'd be nasty. Crazy to think about.
Yeah. That's brutal.
And there was so much cow shit on the machine and all over the ground. He got so much cow shit in his leg. It's just infected. Because if he hadn't gotten that in there, there would be like a 90% chance that they could reattach the leg. But it's infected to shit. There's just nothing that can be done about it. It's literally the shit ground up into his own leg.
Oh, that's awful.
Like, it's freaking gnarly as hell. Like, he's a survivor. That guy's got my respect, definitely.
Well, and you said, like, when after it all happened, his mom was screaming, but he was, like, shrugging it off and, like, downplaying it, right?
Yeah, like, he just sort of he was embarrassed to be naked. Actually, he was embarrassed felt bad for other people in that moment. I thought, which I think is crazy, if I had my leg ripped off, I wouldn't be thinking about what my boss thinks, what my mom thinks, or any of that. I'd be freaking upset that my leg was ripped off. That's all I'd be thinking about.
Yeah.
Shit happens.
Yeah. All right.
And that's my story, all about how my world got flipped, turned upside down.
Right. Well, there you go. There's a spooky tale the day after Halloween for like I did warn you guys at the beginning it was going to be fucking graphic. Anyway, see you guys later. I think that's a good stopping point, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, have a good one. Toodles.
What am I watching? I don't know, but I hate it.
I'm gonna fucking die here, Jack!